Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Real Estate Bites. This is episode number 25 here on a snowy Friday. Most schools here in the county are off of school today because of the weather. So for that reason, I'm joined here today by my daughter. Slide on in here, Nanda. There's Ananda, right? She's going to be hanging out with us today. You want to shout out any of your friends?
Shout out Ben and Tyler for always coming in.
Always tuning in, my guys. Always checking this program out. I appreciate that, boys. We are without internet here, and so I am connected to my phone via hotspot. So if I have connection issues, I apologize, but that is the reason why. Okay, so as always, we bring you some news. Today's topic is that Dave Ramsey of No Debt Fame and Fortune is dead wrong about something, and I want to talk about that. Before we do that, we always get into our real estate statistics. Okay. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. So currently on the market this morning is 355 single-family homes. Again, that does not include mobile manufactured homes. This is just single-family residences and condominiums. The number of closings this past week was 52. Let me back up a bit. So homes on the market at 355, that is the lowest that we've seen since I started to actually record the statistic. And you got to go all the way back to September of last year when I started recording this specific statistic of homes currently on the market. And this is 355 is the lowest since last summer. Number of closings last week, there were 52 homes that sold and transferred last week. The median square footage for those homes was 1,530 square feet. Median home value, $215,713. The median square foot price was $139.42 per square foot. The lowest price of a home sale last week was $59,500 in Grafton, and the highest sale was $604,000 or $604,173. And North Ridgeville makes its second appearance in the leaderboard column here for the highest priced sale of the week. So here's an interesting stat. This is something that I have talked about ad nauseum since I started this, and it is the sale price to list price ratio. So we are back above 100% on average this past week. If we go to the past however many weeks, you can see we are only above 100 one time since the 14th episode of Real Estate Bites. And again, this is 25. So in the last 11, 12 weeks, we've been above 100% only one time. Is that indicative that we're starting to see more appreciation in prices because of the recently lowered interest rates? Only time will tell. But as of right now, with this past week, we creep back up above 100%, meaning that on average, people are getting more than what they're asking for their home. The average days on market for this past week was 42. And at the beginning of the day this morning at 8 a.m., when I took these stats and before the market opened, the current interest rate on a 30-year conventional note was 6.89%. Let me back up. I apologize. Let me back up. The high-priced home there in North Ridgeville, I haven't shown it in a few weeks because it's so much of all the same. And honestly, this week is not a whole lot of difference, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. So this is what $608,000 will get you in North Ridgeville. This is here in West Shore Parkway, brand new development. This is brand new construction, obviously. As you can see, there's no yard. Here's a neat new feature that Realtor does. I don't think they did this before. At least they haven't since I started showing it, but it allows you to hop to different areas. So instead of seeing all the drab pictures of hallways and carpeting, let's take a look at this kitchen. As you'd expect, beautiful. I like the mocha cabinets there. This is the main community bath. Here's the master bath. Nice, big, huge shower. All vinyl. Very beautiful. Another community bath. I believe this is the one in the finished basement. Just kind of blow through some of these. It does have a huge basement. Huge finished basement. Big, gigantic master closet. There's that finished basement, which is pretty sweet, but all in all, kind of underwhelming for 600 and what was it? That's not it. It's sold for 604,173. All right. Well, whatever. Okay, so the topic of the day. I recently read an article by Dave Ramsey. Let me show you here. This fella, if you're not familiar with who he is, Dave Ramsey made his mark in the financial world. He wrote a book basically about staying out of debt and why staying out of debt is so important. And that basically, if you want to build your wealth or whatever, you need to pay down all your debt and completely stay out of debt. And that's how you're going to grow your wealth. So he wrote books like The Total Money Makeover. That's probably his biggest one. Baby Steps to Millionaires. Books like that. But Total Money Makeover was where he talked about focusing on staying out of debt. So at any rate, in this article, he says that you should never use a HELOC and that using a HELOC is, quote unquote, a stupid housing trend. There he is, Mr. Dave Ramsey. Look at that smile. He just wants the best for you, people. Okay, so here are the reasons why Mr. Dave Ramsey tells you you should not use a HELOC or a home equity line of credit for basically anything. But specific to this and what we're talking about is real estate investment, right? So let's do. Now, before I really get into this, I have bought 3 homes with HELOCs, fixed them up with the HELOC, and put those into production. And that's why this really, it sort of intrigued me and caught my attention, because this is a tactic that I have used before. So let's talk about why Dave Ramsey says it's stupid that I did that. And then we'll talk about why I think he's dead wrong. So here are the reasons why Dave Ramsey says you should not do this. Number one, you could lose your home. So indeed, a HELOC is a lien against your home. And so if you take out a HELOC and you're really over leveraged and the market takes a turn or you lose your job or something like that, and you have yet another lien on your home, yeah, you could get foreclosed upon. That is true. That is definitely true. You're taking on unnecessary stress. Some might argue that buying a rental property, period, is taking on unnecessary stress. I might agree with that too. But nevertheless, any endeavor that you take on that's new, that has a certain measure of risk because you're seeking a certain measure of reward, it's going to be stressful. Whether or not that's necessary or unnecessary, or how a person measures that, is completely subjective and, a pretty arbitrary emotion, right? I mean, I can tell you this, for all 3 homes that I bought with a HELOC and fixed up with a HELOC, there were points during the rehab where I looked around myself and wondered, what the hell have I gotten into? Is this something that am I going to lose my shirt here? Have I made a gigantic mistake? But during those moments, I kind of took a step back from that emotion. And I remember that from the podcasts I'd listened to, books I'd read about investing, most investors, the vast majority of investors who are just getting into the game, they have that feeling every once in a while. They look around them and they just see, whether it's just the amount of work that it takes, the amount of time that it takes, the expense of it, or problem after problem that you may run into when you start tearing apart a house and rebuilding it from the inside. You are going to have stress and you're going to wonder if you've not made a mistake. But, what you do is just, you keep your nose to the grindstone, you keep working day in and day out and get it done step by step. And sooner or later it's a completed project. And then you get to sit back with pride instead of freaking out. Number 3 from Dave Ramsey, rates could increase. Yes, this is true. HELOCs are most times variable rates, and rates could increase. And that means your interest rate to pay back could increase. So, if you're using it for real estate investment, then the key there is to get the project done as quickly as you can. And I can tell you, this rate piece, I did get caught with my pants down with increasing rates. So not the last project I did, but the one before that, I bought the house again with the HELOC, and I just had to do all the work myself because I wanted to save the thousands of dollars that it would cost me to hire somebody, right? And just do all the work myself. And so I did, and it took 5 months to do the job and get it done and ready to rent. And in that 5 months, where the rates really hurt me was not so much on the HELOC, but it was the interest rates went from 4% to 7% during that time. This was 22 rather. And the rates hiked quickly, and I lost a significant amount of cash flow on that property. And that's where rates really hurt me and continues to do so today. So on that particular investment, and I'll talk more about why that matters a little bit later after I'm done talking about this article here. But the property still cash flows there, but yeah, the increasing rates hurt that cash flow significantly. Number 4, Dave Ramsey says you're still in debt. Well, sure. And this comes down to basically the crux of the argument of why I think Dave Ramsey is wrong. Debt sometimes isn't necessarily a bad thing. We'll talk about that later. So number 5, Dave Ramsey says you could owe more than you thought. So what he's saying, and number 6 is kind of related to number 5, but you could owe more than you thought. What he's saying here is that instead of just using your HELOC for the investment, you pull the money out for different things. So you have no discipline around why you had the HELOC in the first place. Remember, a real estate investment. And you start pulling it out for personal consumption. Well, yeah, don't do that. That's a bad idea. The one thing I agree with that Dave Ramsey talks about is consumer debt. You don't want consumer debt. Having financing things that you could easily pay for with cash. So for instance, putting a bunch of clothing on a credit card, or, not paying off a vehicle as quickly as possible, or, financing just things around the home, financing your recreational vehicle, stuff like that. Yeah, that's a bad idea. If you want those toys, you should definitely have the discipline to save your cash money and buy those when you have the opportunity, because when you finance them, basically you're buying it with money you really don't have. Okay. And you're going to pay a significant amount of money above sticker price to have that toy. And so many Americans hurt themselves financially in a huge way because they do that. And then number 6, you rely on your HELOC instead of building an emergency fund. Now, this is frankly a terrible idea. Your emergency fund should be savings from your income, not a loan. So here's another thing that Dave Ramsey says at the very beginning of this article that is also kind of silly, in my opinion. He talks about he says here, one housing trend that some investors have tested is the idea of using a HELOC to invest in real estate. Folks, I'm going to tell you that this is not something that people are testing. Using a HELOC for a real estate investment is a tried and true method that has been done for years and years and years. It's not been tested. It has been proven over and over and over. I certainly did not come up with the idea. I'm not that sharp, right? I listen to many podcasts, Bigger Pockets. Shout out to those fellas. I learned so much from those guys. Of course, Kiyosaki, things like that. And Bigger Pockets is where I first heard of the BRRRR method, right? Buy, renovate, rent, refi, and repeat. Okay, the BRRRR method. And so what I use the HELOC for, and the way you use a HELOC in real estate investment is you tap into the equity in your home, you find that property, you buy it with cash, you fix it with cash. The cash always is drawn from the HELOC. And then you rent it out, put it into production. And when you can, you refinance that property. So you tie all the debt to the actual investment property, which should be under an LLC. You cash out refi that property, and you use that cash out refi to pay off the HELOC. Okay. And then put that debt and that lien back to zero. That is how the process is supposed to work. And then you don't touch that HELOC until you find another opportunity. So as long as you do the math correctly, as long as you understand that you need to purchase and rehab this property all in, the purchase price plus all the rehab costs, plus the cost of refi, that's the all-in price, right? You need to be able to do all that for 75% or less of the refi value. Then you'll be able to break even on that investment. And I'll tell you why I just think Dave Ramsey's dead wrong on this one, is because I have done this process with 3 rental properties and I have no regrets. Indeed, there was a lien on my house, right? And there was that threat while the HELOC was in place. Indeed, there was stress. I talked about that earlier. There's stress when you do one of these projects, especially when, I've only done 4 of them and 3 of them were this way. And so, yeah, there was stress. But in the end, you know what? I have now one of those I sold. So I have 2 of those projects that are cash flowing, productive assets for me right now. And I have no regrets about that at all. So Dave Ramsey I just think he's missing the boat on this one. He just wants you to be scared, needs to be the guru on this. But I think if you are shopping for an opportunity and if you have sufficient equity in your home, this is a tried and true method to purchase and put into production cash flowing assets into your portfolio that you maintain over time. They should increase in value on time through market cycles. And it is a great way to start or add on to your investment portfolio. Right now, I'm in a place where I'm not using the HELOC to purchase my next property. But I'll tell you what, if that deal came along and it really represented itself as a deal, which, let's be honest, those types of deals are hard to find right now because everything is expensive in real estate. But if a deal were to come along, then I would probably deploy that money again in order to put a solid cash flowing asset into the portfolio. Debt, to Dave Ramsey's point, consumer debt is bad. If you use debt to put in a cash flowing asset into play, there's nothing wrong with that. That's something Kiyosaki talks about all the time. And I don't know if hopefully you've heard of Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, I think that guy is one of the greatest Americans to have ever done it, and kind of a personal hero of mine. Taught me a lot of things only through his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But, Kiyosaki talks all the time about using debt to put cash flowing assets into production. And the nice thing about debt is this. So here's the game in a nutshell. And we're talking about HELOCs again. So you buy and fix up the house with a HELOC. You refi it, you tie the debt to the property, you get it into production, you're cash flowing some hundreds of dollars a month on the rental. So you have that income. as time goes by, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, your tenants have paid into a bunch of equity. Maybe real estate values have appreciated. Now you have additional equity in that investment property. You can then refinance that rental property, extend that note another 30 years, try to keep the payments at or about the same, and take out 20, 30, 40, $50,000 of cash-free money to do whatever you want with, whether that's a personal project on your own home, whether it's to buy another rental property, whatever you want to do. But that is how you use debt to build your wealth in your portfolio. Right on. Thank you guys for joining once again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. See you next week.